this is a wishing well. If you throw a wishing star down the well, you will receive a random Pokemon in return. But you might be asking, where is this thing even located? This doesn't look like Kanto or Johto or even Hoenn. You'd be correct, because this wishing well is located in the Ilios region, the setting of Pokemon Lazarus, a brand new original ROM hack by the same mind behind Emerald Sea Glass. And like I've done before with Emerald Sea Glass, I'll be taking on a Wishlocke challenge in Pokemon Lazarus. If any of my pokes faint, they'll be considered dead forever, and I can only use mons obtained from the wishing well in battle. I will also be playing on Lazarus's built-in hard mode, which includes level caps and tougher battles. But the real challenge will come from this wishing well and the random Pokemon it spits out for me. The well could either bless my run or doom it, and it's all up to chance. Surely the well is a benevolent soul though, right? I arrive at Ilios to accept a new research assistant position at Acrisia University. The region's professor, Elia, was kind enough to gift me a starter Pokemon before sending me off with the task of filling out the Pokedex. In other words, I'm actually getting paid for my labor, unlike the 10-year-old protagonist. An idyllic stroll through a cornfield past an impressive-looking windmill soon takes me to Justmail Town, home of the first gym and a makeshift Pokemart stand that employs Pro Jared. But most importantly, east of Justmail Town lies the Wishing Well. This is a good time to go over my rules regarding the use of wishing stars, aka my encounters. If I find a wishing star lying around in the overworld, I can use it. If I receive wishing stars as a gift, I can use however many I receive. If there is an infinitely repeatable method of farming wishing stars, I can obtain 1 wishing star per unique method. And finally, I'll receive 1 wishing star after every earned gym badge. Trust me, this last method will be vital. Right now, I can obtain 3 wishing stars from this kind little girl and nab a 4th hidden on this rock beside her to begin filling out my roster. Come forth! Gilgamesh the Arctozolt, Yohani the Gligar, Cleo the Tinkatink, and Alphonse the Growlithe. Oh my God, I cannot tell you how great it feels to have an actual half-decent party for once. The overall difficulty curve in Lazarus is steepest at the start and tapers off once you get the ball rolling, so a bad initial batch of wishing well encounters can brick your run immediately, or in the short term. For example, my very first attempt at this challenge ended at the 2nd gym because I had 0 Pokemon capable of handling rock and steel types. Turns out the legendary type Null isn't so useful when it gets walled by Cloth. I could go on and on about how many runs I reset prematurely due to poor well encounters, but none illustrate my point better than the attempt where my best option against the first gym leader's bug and grass types was Hidden Power Ice Unknown. I could have just reset this one immediately, but I felt like I had to make a point. But at this current moment, I'm feeling pretty good. For one, I'm in the game, look guys. And second, our current team matches up well against the first gym leader. After all, we have an entire Arctozolt, who at this point in the game is a man amongst boys. But it's Cleo the Tinkatink who leads off against the first gym leader, Polymnia. Cleo fires the opening salvo, a critical hit Metal Claw that eviscerates Cutiefly before it can even act. On to the next Pokemon. Trainers in Pokemon Lazarus don't have one static team, however. They may have a designated ace and occasionally a designated lead, but the rest of the trainer's team will be randomly picked from a personalized pool of Pokemon. I really like this feature since it encourages flexibility and reactive gameplay over memorization. Polymnia's second Pokemon will either be a cute mushroom, a cute pumpkin, or a blue-collar dude, and it ends up being the mushroom. Good for Cleo as she whittles down Shroomish with Covet, shrugs aside 5 hits of Bullet Seed, then adds a second Covet before getting dropped to half by Shroomishes Mega Drain. With our foe sufficiently weakened, Gilgamesh can tag in on a weak Mega Drain before burying Shroomish under a pile of powdery snow. That just leaves Polymnia's ace, whom Gilgamesh chunks with powder snow. Skidoo does land an annoying Leech Seed that helps keep it alive several more turns than it deserved to live, but Gilgamesh ultimately outlasts Skidoo thanks to its held Oran Berry and my arduous effort of clicking powder snow over and over again. The first gym badge is officially ours, meaning we can cash in a wishing star for a new party member. Come forth. Farina the Wooper, not bad. Compared to the slop you slapped onto my plate in earlier attempts, you're actually being pretty nice to me this time. Wishing well? Tell you what, I know it gets lonely out here so far away from the main town, so let's make a deal. I'll bring you back some souvenirs and other useful goods that'll help drive more foot traffic to your secluded glade, and in return, you keep expelling good Pokemon from your bowels. How about it? Sounds like a deal. Put her there, partner. Take your time, I'm in no rush. On the way out of Just Mail Town, I'm stopped by my colleague and fellow research assistant Rania, who's the closest thing we have to a rival in this game. She's got a great design, and her battle theme is the best piece of music from this game in my opinion. Unfortunately, the actual battle against Rania was nothing to write home about. She employed a water, fire, grass core that Gilgamesh, Farina, and Alphonse thrashed, respectively. As I trekked through Ilios' mountains and swamps en route to the next gym, I really came to appreciate how alive this region feels. From the wild Pokemon roaming the overworld to the intricate care put into this region's world building, to all the antiquities that portray Ilios' deep-rooted ties to its ancient history, such as all the old minecart rails, statues, and ruins. Anyway, please look down at the Wii U gamepad. You need to prove you're worthy at this temple by solving this jigsaw puzzle for toddlers. Doing so nets us a special whistle to summon a rideable Espathra on command. Go, my trusty steed! Before long, we arrive at Kalami City, which has a banger of a theme. Pokemon Lazarus also has player customization in the form of pre-made outfits, and 2 of them can be purchased in Kalami City. I won't be explicitly mentioning every time I acquire a new outfit, but you'll notice, assuming you're not watching this video on a second monitor or while you're in another room, right? The second gym leader, Orani, specializes in all the earthly types, you know, rock, electric, steel, Hisuian, Sneasel, ground. Only 4 of these mons will be chosen for the battle, however, which is why I am only bringing 4 Pokemon to this gym battle. Oh, and that discourteous crab who walled my type null is guaranteed to lead off. That's why I began this attempt by letting Cleo show off her adorable baby doll eyes, only for her to get punched in the face by Cloth. See, I told y'all this guy was an asshole. Cleo is just here to weaken Cloth's damage output, and after dropping her foe's attack by 3 stages, she tags out for Farina, who eats a much weaker Bulldoze as a result. Cloth is still intent on spamming Rock Smash, but it hits like wet tissue paper, letting Farina fire off relatively uncontested mud shots. Cloth's Anger Shell does trigger upon dropping below half health, but the churlish crustacean can't pose much of a threat as Farina eventually knocks it out. Next up is Hisuian Voltorb, who I know is itching to pull the trigger on Bullet Seed, so I switch Farina out for Alphonse on the grassy attack. Voltorb is still faster, however, so it gets off a Charge Beam the following turn that does an alarming amount of damage and grants it a special attack boost. Alphonse's Flame Wheel also barely misses the kill, and our hit triggers Voltorb's Seed Sower ability, summoning grassy terrain that grants residual healing. Oh, and the gym leader pops a super potion on the next turn, as if things couldn't get any worse. But Alphonse remains steadfast, bringing Voltorb back into the red with another Flame Wheel before somehow getting the jump on the following turn to boot Voltorb back to Hisui. My elation is short-lived, however, because I'm now staring down a Hisuian Sneasel. Our team would have been better equipped to handle Mawile here instead, because this particular Sneasel has 4 times effective moves against Farina and Yohane. Cleo's also in precarious HP range, and Gilgamesh is currently chilling in the PC because I only brought 4 Pokemon to this fight to match Orani's team. Thus, I decided to keep Alphonse out on the field for now. Sneasel lands a Rock Smash that would have killed if not for the several turns of grassy terrain healing we received, while Alphonse retaliates with Flame Wheel, though he can't even take Sneasel below half. I have to switch now, but to who? Everyone on this team is vulnerable at the moment. Yohane can at least shrug off a Rock Smash, so I go with her. The grassy terrain finally ends shortly after. Yohane's combination of defensive bulk and remaining health ensures Sneasel can't one-hit KO with Ice Shard just yet, so it instead goes for another Rock Smash to drop Yohane's defense further. Yohane kicks up some sand to lower Sneasel's accuracy, then tags out for Alphonse for that sweet, sweet Intimidate. Unfortunately, I learned in that moment that Inner Focus blocks Intimidate, making this switch-in worth about as much as an NFT in 2026. On the bright side, all Alphonse had to take was a weak Ice Shard, and when I bring Yohane back in, Sneasel clicks Rock Smash again. Sneasel still doesn't have the firepower to kill with Ice Shard, so it goes for Rock Smash again, while Yohane kicks up some more accuracy-lowering sand. Then I switch to Cleo on the expected Ice Shard, triggering her held Citrus Berry to restore a bit of health. Cleo begins dropping Sneasel's attack with Baby Doll Eyes, while it hits back with Rock Smash. Repeat the exact same script the following turn, and hey, wasn't Sneasel's accuracy supposed to be lowered? With Cleo low, I bring Yohane back in yet again, and obviously Sneasel lands another Rock Smash yet again. But that's where the accursed creature's luck finally runs out. I think our foe might end up developing a deep hatred for sand because it's coarse and rough and irritating, and it makes Sneasel swing everywhere yet hit nothing. Except for one more Rock Smash, but that's all. Yohane keeps kicking up more sand until Sneasel's accuracy is finally at -6. With Sneasel Sneasel's vision permanently damaged, Yohane can tag out for Alphonse, who dodges every attack thrown his way, fires off Flame Wheel after Flame Wheel, and eventually knocks Sneasel out for good. I never want to see his Sneasel's smug smile ever again. Unfortunately, this battle is not yet over. We still have to deal with Orani's ace Larvitar, and that's why I kept Farina as healthy as I could during the whole Sneasel debacle. She dodges Larvitar's Rock Tomb on the way in, then eats a stomping tantrum that brings her down to 3 remaining health points, triggering her held Citrus Berry. Farina is now free to finish this grueling battle with a decisive water gun. You can't kill even with 4 times effectiveness? Yohane, you still have some health left over, right? You can switch into an ineffective stomping tantrum and end this battle, right? Oh no. Brace yourself, Yohane! Oh, never mind. Yohane can shrug off Rock Tomb and fire off one final, actually decisive knockoff to make sure I never have to step foot into this godforsaken gym ever again. Get me out of here. Sup, wishing well, I'm back. Kalami is a port city, so I brought you a bunch of fruits inside wooden crates. What you got for me in return? Oh, Zolosis. Not a bad Pokemon per se, but considering how long it takes her to evolve and the fact that the next gym leader uses ghost types, Tomoko here is gonna ride the pine for the time being, while I wander into the Wanderer's Woods and evolve Farina into Quagsire. I love her overworld sprite, it's so derpy. This is what I imagine all of you look like watching my videos, and this is what I imagine all the subscribers looking like. You too can look smacked by hitting that sub button. Anyway, meet Team Chimera, the villainous group of Ilios who operate under one simple motto: get rich or die trying. Seriously, everything these guys do is in the pursuit of money, such as stealing Pokemon from the forest. These guys already tried intercepting the delivery that contained my Pokedex earlier in the journey, cementing themselves as the lowest of scum in my eyes. Of all the people Team Chimera could target, why the underpaid, overworked delivery man? The Team Chimera member currently in my way is actually one of the admins, which I didn't realize at first since they weren't given a name, but the Hisuian Arcanine in their sprite tipped me off. They didn't actually use Arcanine in our fight, however, and they probably should have, since this double battle was light work. Cleo played a big part by giving cutesy eyes and confusing kisses, and evolved into Tinkatuff after our win to further her crusade of cuteness. With Team Chimera packed up, we can make our way to Pythios Town, a sleepy, spooky village surrounded by graveyards and situated beside the sea. It's also home to the 3rd gym, where a mandatory double battle right before the leader was actually pretty difficult, because it's a double battle against 2 Oricorio. In case you didn't know, Oricorio has the exclusive ability Dancer, letting it use a dance move immediately after whoever just used one first. So, for example, if one Oricorio were to use Revelation Dance, the other would immediately follow suit, meaning if you're facing 2 Oricorio at the same time, you could theoretically get hit by up to 4 attacks in a single turn. Fortunately, these 2 Oricorio decided to use Teeter Dance, confusing each other, and that confusion was to our benefit. Also, we have Gilgamesh, who still munches through this early game for our breakfast. Actually, every member of the team, sans Tomoko, has put in some level of significant work. I've already touched upon Gilgamesh plenty, and we've seen firsthand how Cleo can debuff, but Alphonse has also put in the work with Intimidate, and Farina has been rock solid in her few appearances too, except for that one time, but we don't talk about that. And then there's Yohane, who is prepared to flex her might against the 3rd gym leader Cleo and her lead Mimikyu. It does get off a quick shadow sneak, but Yohane slaps Mimikyu across the forehead with knockoff, taking it down to a singular health point, removing its focus sash, and revealing it to actually be a Hisuian Zorua in disguise. Or I guess in illusion, since Zorua's ability is illusion, well, Mimikyu's is disguise, so saying it's in disguise would technically be... Cleo pops a super potion only for Yohane's knockoff to bring Zorua right back into the red. Cleo then pops a hyper potion only for the same thing to happen, so the gym leader just throws their hands up and lets Yohane claim her rightful KO. Cleo's got a murderer's row of options available for her team, however, but when she sends out Shuppet next, it all but confirms that she doesn't have Bruxish on this version of her team. Thank goodness, because it means Yohane can stay out and trade knockoffs with Shuppet. She does lose her Lumberry in the process, but Yohane moves first the following turn to knock out Shuppet before it can click Will-O-Wisp. Galarian Ponyta puts up even less of a fight, only getting in a soft chop kick before Yohane double knocks it off as well. Unfortunately, our runaway momentum screeches to a halt with the arrival of Cleo's penultimate Pokemon, Noctowl. This thing's a ghost flying type in Lazarus with Shadow Tag as its ability, meaning Yohane Yohane is now trapped with no hope of escape, and since we lost our Lumberry earlier, Noctowl is all but guaranteed to click Hypnosis. We can try to take advantage of this fact, reducing Noctowl's accuracy with Sand Attack so that it misses Hypnosis, but that's about the only option Yohane has here to survive. Not to mention, she'd need at least 2 knockoffs to actually kill this thing. In short, your survival is not guaranteed, Yohane. Are you still up to the challenge, even if it means your potential demise? Yohane begins her last stand with Sand Attack, causing Noctowl to whiff on Hypnosis. The bird is currently holding onto a wide lens, which means a knockoff here would deal increased damage, remove the item, and further hamper Noctowl's ability to hit its sleep move. How's the saying go? Kill 2 birds with 1 stone? In this case, knockoff will be killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Or how about killing 1 bird with 1 massive knockoff crit? Yohane has successfully escaped the saw trap by defiantly fighting her way out, which just leaves the gym leader's ace, the actual Mimikyu. Yohane's done her part, so she gracefully bows out for Alphonse, who takes a meaty hit even after Intimidate dropped Mimikyu's attack by 1 stage. Thus, I have to switch again, this time to Cleo, who takes far less damage than our Fire Dog did for one simple reason. Before this gym battle, I caught a Togepi east of Pythios so I could complete a quest to get an Eviolite, which Cleo is currently wielding. There are several items and even gameplay features hidden away as quest rewards in Lazarus, many of which require me to catch and show a Pokemon to the quest giver, which is ultimately why I didn't totally ban catching Pokemon in my rules. Don't worry, anyone I caught ended up getting released shortly after. Anyway, Cleo's Mold Breaker ability allows her to ignore Mimikyu's disguise, letting her maul through the Pikachu wannabe after a few short turns to earn us our 3rd gym badge. Great work, Cleo, but the real star of this fight was undoubtedly Yohane. Unfortunately, she permanently lost her Lumberry after the battle. I didn't know that could happen. Greetings, dear Wishing Well. I have procured you the finest of medical supplies from Pythios town. Don't worry, they didn't need it. Half the residents are already dead. I think one of them was named Springroll or something. Anyway, you wouldn't happen to have any spare Lumberries on hand for Yohane, would you, Wishing Well? Wow, that's a weird looking Lumberry. Baltimore the Delmise is still a very welcome addition to the team though, especially in our next battle against a Team Chimera admin. This is a different admin than the one with the Arcanine. This guy's got a Mamoswine instead that they also don't use. Baltimore played a big role in this relatively simple fight, serving as the perfect counter to the water type Paldean Tauros. It couldn't do a single thing except click Workup until Baltimore eventually Mega Drained it to death. Get out of here, Chimera scum! Where the hell did this confetti come from? And where do you come from? This is Piraeus, an old sailor who was being threatened by that same Chimera admin we just sent packing. Also, he apparently was scaling the side of a cliff to try to jump the Chimera admin. As thanks, this athletic old man lets us use his ship for fast travel and even offers us our own cabin. I ended up decorating this place quite a bit throughout the run. Here's what it looked like by the end. No, the graphics glitched out after I picked up an item. That's silly. What the fuck? After bulldozing through an unremarkable ice cave except for the ice beam TM found within, I head out the other side and run into Nico, the professor's other assistant besides Rania and I. He claims he's not much of a battler, and he's right, but he's actually here to look into the history of Ilios. Take these 2 statues for example. 2 brothers, one a king, the other a poet. The king was selfish, valued worldly desires, and now his statue stands overgrown and weathered. Meanwhile, the statue of the humble, benevolent poet is clean and well kept. Truly, this serves as a reflection of how altruism will always be remembered over vanity. Nico, these statues are identical. Welcome to Sophos City, the biggest metropolis in Ilios. It's got everything. New outfits, new visual bugs, the greatest statue ever erected, an arcade with pinball machines, a shop that sells ability patches, and the game's creator, Nemo622, in the flesh. Most importantly, however, are these colored pencil-looking doofuses, who will trade colored shards for evolutionary items. By forcibly taking a red shard from a wild Dwebble, I can exchange it for a Firestone to evolve Alphonse into Arcanine. His newfound power plays a big role in driving away yet another crop of Team Chimera grunts in a nearby cavern. An unremarkable ordeal except for the fact that we received a key ring afterward, giving us access to Mega Evolution. Now we just need someone capable of Mega Evolving. For now, I gotta move on to the 4th gym, which has a unique gimmick where you can't face the leader until all her trainers are defeated, and you can't even leave the gym until the leader herself is defeated. Not a problem for us since I have a lot of potions on hand, and Pokemon Lazarus was kind enough to add acrobatics to Gligar's moveset, letting Yohane rip through everything in her path en route to the fighting psychic gym leader,
Terpsichore.
Terpsichore.
Our 4th gym battle against Tarp kicks off with a mega-sized surprise. That's right, gym leaders can now use Mega Evolution. Unfortunately for Mega Heracross, Yohane's acrobatics can obliterate it in a single hit. Next up is Gothorita, but Yohane can slap it across the face, ignore the impending future sight, and collect a second easy KO, bringing in Stewie and Sneasel again? It's even got the same bag of tricks as last time. But Yohane has a flying type move this time to rip through Sneasel before it can try any funny business. That invites in Unknown. Yes, a gym leader in this region legitimately uses an Unknown on their team. Yohane isn't currently holding the Eviolite though, and she's actually in KO range of Unknown, thanks to its new halfway decent signature move, Freezing Glare. So I have to switch to my actual Eviolite holder, Cleo, who shrugs off Freezing Glare before unleashing a pair of brutal swings to bring down Unknown. All that remains is Mind Fu, who doesn't have a single attacking move capable of hitting ghost types, such as Baltimore. Thus, we can take our sweet time before collecting the easiest gym badge of the run so far. Shortly after exiting the gym, I'm whisked away to the faraway Kipos town because something terrible has happened here. Team Chimera stole all the Pokemon from the zoo. They're trying to reshape the world with an elaborate, world-threatening scheme, and then they're just kidnapping and selling zoo creatures for $5 and a bag of chips each. These guys are evil in a way that just boggles the mind. The only creature left in the zoo is a lone Girafarig, and while I could just ignore this optional side area and get on with my life, it's abundantly clear that a lot of care went into this zoo area. From the varied nature habitats to the descriptive blurbs that do a remarkable job of connecting Pokemon to real-life animal and environmental sciences. I recall Nemo's NPC in Sofo City mentioning that their university capstone paper was about exotic birds, which explains why nature and zoology are so deeply enriched into the fabric of Ilios. So, thanks Nemo. I now know that birds technically evolved from reptiles. I also ended up donating my starter Pokemon to the zoo before making my way back to the well. So they were gonna throw out this flat screen from the Sophos arcade, but I brought it back for you. Now give me something good in return. I hate you. The journey continues as I sail across the Sea of Asteri. It stays true to traditional Pokemon water routes by also being wholly unremarkable and lengthy and tedious. The little Wingles in the battle background are cute though, I'll give it that. Smack dab in the middle of this monotonous ocean, however, is the breath of fresh air known as Marmaro Island. This cozy little mining settlement doesn't offer much, but its music reminds me of a long-forgotten RuneScape village, and I mean that as the highest of compliments. Despite my initial disappointment, Camellia has actually put in some decent work since evolving from Zigzagoon into Linoon. Of course, it was against optional trainers, but work is work. It'll be hard to keep working when you're dead though. Rip Camellia, I guess. After an eternity spent holding the right arrow key on my keyboard, I eventually arrive at Marini Island, the city of wine, parties, purple rooftops, and gym number 5, which specializes in water poison types. That's a dicey matchup against our team's best mons, so I take some extra time to prep for the big battle. I return to the Wanderer's Woods to surf across this pond and pick up a Razor Claw to evolve Yohane into Gliscor, then slap an ability patch onto her to give her Poison Heal. Unfortunately, the Toxic Orb is not in this game, but I can use Dex Snap to guarantee an encounter against a wild Pokemon who will do the poisoning for us. I can also swing by the berry shop back in Just Mail Town, which carries all the basic berries and nature mints. You can assume that all my party members going forward are going to be optimally natured and probably given citrus berries. On to the 5th gym battle. Euterpe's guaranteed to lead with a Mega Stone wielding Gyarados, which is why I chose to lead with Alphonse. Yep, thanks to Intimidate and Alphonse outspeeding to land a Will-O-Wisp, Mega Gyarados has been weakened enough that Aqua Tail can't even bring Alphonse below half. Euterpe does have one full heal on hand, but Alphonse lands a second Will-O-Wisp to render it null. Baltimore switches in, taking negligible damage from Mega Gary's Aqua Tail, or even Ice Fang the following turn. Giga Drain hits super effectively since Gyarados lost its flying typing upon Mega evolving, meaning it's just a war of attrition now. Gyarados is too neutered to leave a lasting mark, and Baltimore's Giga Drain heals off a good portion of the damage each time. Gyara does manage to flinch Baltimore once and take it below half to trigger its held Citrus Berry, but our trusty Anchor eventually manages to down the big angry fish. Dragalge does a very cool flip before aiming Toxic directly into the Steel-type Cleo, who just switched in. Dragalge tickles Cleo with 3 straight water pulses while she gets up 3 layers of spikes, even through confusion for the 3rd layer. Then Gilgamesh takes the field. Gil does get hit by Toxic, but he manages to take down Dragalge with 2 quick ice beams. Shoutouts to that earlier Ice Cave for giving us the TM so early. Next on the chopping block is Haunter, who unfortunately floats over our layers of spikes and connects with Confuse Ray as Yohane switches in, meaning our little devil's gonna have to fight through a flock of birds overhead to land a hit. But Yohane does so on the first try, bringing Haunter into the red with knockoff before taking a tough Shadow Ball. Thank goodness for Poison Heal. Yohane then remembers that she's got that dog in her, snapping out of confusion completely to cave in Haunter's face. That brings in the next Pokemon. Hisuian Sneasel again? Whatever, Yohane's dealt with this little twerp twice already. That Ice Shard crit hurt, but Yohane still has enough strength to one-shot Sneasel with acrobatics. She's in a pretty dicey position though, and Shedinja's up next, who could pose a threat. Unless it steps on spikes and gets deleted instantly. That just leaves Euterp's ace Tentacruel, which Farina can handle easily. She kicks back and keeps her foot on the Mudshot button to eventually net us our 5th gym badge. There's this NPC beside the Wishing Well that I've neglected to mention until now. He doesn't say much, just offhandedly brings up how the strongest gym leader in Ilios disappeared after her town got raided by Team Chimera. I wonder when this will be relevant. Right now, because the gym leader Calliope is actually totally fine. She didn't get kidnapped by Team Chimera, she's the leader of Team Chimera. And she strolls up to us after our 5th gym battle to monologue about how she's gonna capture Raikou, Entei, and Suicune so that Team Chimera can have unimpeachable access to Ilios' greatest treasures, its natural resources. I gotta hand it to Team Chimera, they think with their wallets and they aren't ashamed to do so. I'm still gonna give them a swirly every time I see them though. Such as at Pentapetal City, where Rania appears once again to challenge me to another unnoteworthy battle before revealing that a Team Chimera grunt is about to haul away the last Cranidos and Shieldon in the area. It's up to us to free the wild Pokemon and send that Team Chimera grunt packing for a good wait. Rania, why'd you waste time fighting me if the last Cranidos and Shieldon in the area were about to get kidnapped and sold off? Man, imagine if the Chimera grunt had gotten away because I decided to stall out Rania in our fight. We're still not done with Team Chimera though, because I have to return to Marmaro Island to drive them away from the mines. Fortunately, my heroism nets me the dive HM needed to progress, as well as a very familiar mining minigame that's the source of my first wishing star found in the overworld for this entire run. Yeah, have you noticed that every wishing star after the initial batch has just been from my designated post-gym reserve? Without that rule in place, I would still be stuck at 4 Pokemon up until now. I don't get why wishing stars are so rare in Lazarus, especially since they were so abundantly available in the overworld of Emerald Sea Glass. Anyway, I can swing back to Justmail Town now and visit my dear friend the Well. How you doing, buddy? What you got for me? A female Salandit? That works. Here's some wine from Marini Island in return. Say, you've got a pretty wide selection of items here now. Have you considered selling some of it to make a bit of dough? You don't have to decide right now. It's just a thought I've been having. Anyway, what's the 2nd star gonna net us? Oh yeah, of all the previous attempts and counters to bring back, Unknown was the one I was hankering for. Thank you, Wishing Well. Very cool. With my brand new dive HM, I can head underwater, pass by abandoned ships along the ocean floor, and pick up my 2nd Eviolite of the run. Then when I resurface, I find myself in Pilates City, a place caught between past and present with its paved roads juxtaposed against its ancient architecture. Also, its Pokemart has the wrong sign. Unfortunately, Pilates City is home to the 7th gym, not the 6th, so I have to sail a little bit further south past active volcanoes to reach my actual destination, the Fresco Isles. The blackened volcanic earth and buildings spread across multiple small islands really give this place its own unique flair. Unfortunately, it also has the worst BGM out of any city in Lazarus. The Fresco Isles have 2 gym leaders, Thalia and Melpomene, twin sisters who are always bickering amongst themselves. Today's argument is whether pop music or sad girl music reigns supreme. I'm gonna have to side with Mel here, not because I agree with her take, but because she dropped this absolute scorcher of a line. Pop music? More like slop music. The only way to calm down the sisters is with a box of chocolates, which I totally get. I also stave off negative emotions by indulging in junk food. But the local Pokemart just sold their last box to this cool trainer who's only willing to hand it over after a battle. She is a mega Noctowl with a big poofy hat, but Gilgamesh's Strongjaw boosted Ice Fang ensures that box of sweets will go to us. Then to the gym leaders to calm them right down and finally let us enter their gym. How the hell did the twins funnel a sandstorm into their gym? Oh, they used the sandstorm machine. Of course, how could I forget? They're right beside the TVs at Costco. I have to say, I wish the gyms in Lazarus had actual memorable puzzles instead of just being a straight shot to the gym leader with different window dressing every time. Maybe I'm just being hard on the Fresco gym in particular because I got soft locked here twice by the same gym trainer making eye contact with me. Before taking on the twins, I evolved Tomoko into Duosion and Lingsha into Salazzle, which puts me over the 20 obtained Pokemon threshold needed to complete this one specific quest and gain access to move tutoring. I wish this mechanic wasn't locked behind a quest, but nevertheless, I can now rework Farina's moveset into a dedicated special attacker for reasons that will become obvious soon. I am not thrilled about this 6th gym battle in general for several reasons. First, it's a double battle. Second, the Sandstorm machine registered trademark ensures permanent sand throughout this fight. And finally, Thalia and Mel specialize in electric and ground types, which cover most of my team's weaknesses. Yohane and Farina lead off against the twins' Mudstale and Palmot. Yohane burrows underground, avoiding avoiding Mudsdale's Rock Smash while Palmot nails Farina with Power Up Punch, and Farina's Surf does great damage to both our foes. Yohane pops out of the ground the following turn to KO Palmot, and I have Farina use EQ here instead of Surf, since Surf would have rocked Yohane's world. This does mean we miss out on the Mudsdale kill, however, and the arrival of Hisui and Electrode further complicates matters. The first of the twins' 2 available Hyper Potions is used on Mudsdale, and since I'm expecting a Grass-type move from Electrode, I make Farina use Protect. However, Electrode aims Grassy Glide at Yohane for some reason, and she responds with Acrobatics to bring Electrode into the red. The hit also triggers Seed Sower to spread grassy terrain and is residual healing everywhere. Electrode is the lucky recipient of the gym leader's remaining Hyper Potion, but Yohane brings the Hisuian back down to a quarter of its health while Mudsdale lands a soft Rock Smash on Yohane. Farina clicks Earthquake again, but fails to KO anybody. I swear making her a special attacker for this fight is gonna make sense real soon. We can predict the Grassy Glide this turn with Farina protecting against it, while Yohane takes out Electrode with U-turn. I don't have a great long-term switching option here though, but I picked Baltimore since I know Mudsdale is gonna waste Rock Smash against their Ghost. In comes Alolan Raichu to override the grassy terrain with electrified terrain. I actually fat-fingered Protect again here, but my blunder paid off. Farina blocks Raichu's Psychic and Mudsdale's Rock Smash, while Baltimore lands a meaty Shadow Ball on the rat. Sandstorm damage then takes Raichu below half before it decides to hit Baltimore with Psychic instead next turn. Mudsdale goes for another Rock Smash against Farina, and in response, she summons a wave that brings everyone else on the battlefield below half, including Baltimore, who finishes off Raichu with Shadow Ball right after. That invites in Crocodile, which forces me to pull Baltimore out in exchange for Yohane again. Yohane admirably tanks Crocodile's Crunch, and while I would have loved to have Farina click Yawn here, Electric Terrain is still up, so I just make her use Protect instead to make Mudsdale seethe with rage. Now it's Yohane's turn to protect, and she blocks both Crocodile and Mudsdale's attacks, letting Farina fire off a free Surf to knock Crocodile down to 50% HP and knock out Mudsdale. And in slithers the twins' final Pokemon, Steelix. This Mega Evolving Serpent is the reason why I made Farina a special attacker just for this fight. Yohane escapes underground with Dig, but Crocodile's powerful Crunch is enough to trigger Farina's Citrus Berry. She also has to grit her teeth against Mega Steelix's Ice Fang, but she takes it like a champ before catching a wave that KOs Crocodile and halves Steelix's health. Say that 10 times fast. Electric Terrain finally ends as Yohane pops out of the ground, but since Mega Steelix is built like a brick shithouse, it survives Yohane's attack before watching its Bulldoze do absolutely nothing against Farina's Protect and Yohane's whole floating 10 feet off the ground thing. Farina's in KO range for Mega Steelix though, so I bring in Baltimore. Humbled as it might be, Balti's still the best switching option here because everyone else on my team fears Bulldoze. Baltimore is brought into range by the hit and the residual Sandstorm damage, but she could just click Protect the following turn and get a front row seat to Yohane's finishing blow that nets us a hard-fought 6th gym badge. This fight is like the one exception to my earlier difficulty graph. At this point, I was quite disgruntled at the total lack of wishing stars available in the overworld, so I finally decided to just spoil myself and look up every possible place I could acquire them. Turns out, there's virtually 0 wishing stars available in the overworld, just as I expected, but there's several repeatable methods to acquire stars that I unknowingly skipped over. I already used the mining method, but it turns out you can also fish up all sorts of useful treasures in this game, including Pokeballs, TMs, wishing stars, and bottles of milk. Anyone want to take a sip of the sea milk? Thanks to the post-gym wishing star and the fishing star, I can add 2 new members to our ever-growing ensemble. The first is Doduo, who I am going to headcanon as the Doduo from one of my previous attempts coming back to life. And the second is horse girl, Uma Musume. Oh, and here's 20 barrels of crude oil I procured from the oceans around the Fresco Isles. Don't ask how I got them. Bye. Before returning to Pilates City to take on the 7th gym, I evolved Cleo into Tinkaton and those 2 newly acquired ground types into their final forms. Yes, Dodrio is a ground flying type in this game. Then I swing by Acristia University to chat with Nico again, and purchase a surprise tool that will help us later. And finally, I can brush aside Rania again before entering the Pilates City gym. It actually has a puzzle for once. It does just boil down to running through a maze and interacting with 3 torches, but hey, it's something. Radine, the 7th gym leader, specializes in fire and flying types and leads off with a Focus Sash Oricorio. Thus, I lead off with Farina, who takes a mighty chunk of damage from Air Slash, but can use the Lazarus original move Triple Dive to break through the sash and cook that bird. Farina is already in KO range against Chandelure though, so I have to switch to Yohane, who gets battered into citrus range herself on the switch-in. The berry and poison heal do bring her right back into the green though, and a Protect the following turn buys Yohane an additional turn of healing. She can then burrow under her ground and unleash Dig upon her opponent, and for some inexplicable reason, Chandelure decides to drive a nail into its head right then and there, finishing itself off for us. The curse it inflicted is negligible, as Johanna could just U-turn out for Cleo on a soft Togekiss Moonblast, setting the stage for a mega-sized surprise. That's right, Tinkaton can Mega Evolve in this game. Now witness Cleo as she transforms into Mega Tinkaton! Wow, that back sprite does not do it justice. Here's what it looks like from the front. Tinkaton's hammer is now a jackhammer, and she's practicing good workplace safety too. Unfortunately, Rodine wisened up and swapped Togekiss out for the fire-type variant of Paldean Tauros, whose Intimidate and typing greatly weaken Cleo's Iron Head. 2 can play the Intimidate game, however, as I bring in Alphonse on a tickle of a hit, then immediately switch him out for Agnes Tachyon. This Tauros only has physical attacks, meaning Tachyon can collect free defense boosts with stamina while slowly whittling down her foe. It took a bit longer than it should have, since Tauros had a Chesto Berry and clicked rest at 80% HP, but Tachyon eventually proved that horses are superior to bulls. Togekiss is back, and so is Cleo. This is a good time to mention that Mega Tinkaton has a different ability than its regular form. It has huge power, so its already impressive Mega stats actually look like this when factoring in its ability. Yeah, sorry Togekiss, you're gonna have to get checked for a concussion after taking Cleo's strong Iron Head. Braviary gets flattened by Gigaton Hammer 2, leaving just Toucannon as the last foe standing. As Alphonse hits the battlefield again, Mega Toucannon takes center stage. It's basically a flying fire type version of Mega Kangaskhan. I brought in Alphonse here expecting a Flare Blitz targeted towards Cleo, but Mega Toucan Sam goes for a Beak Blast instead, knocking Alphonse low enough that he has to consume his held berry. But he can remain on the battlefield, connecting with Thunderfang and flinching Toucannon. A second Thunderfang brings Toucannon into KO range, and although it hits back hard, Alphonse can stand his ground and enjoy the fact that all the Fang moves have 100% accuracy in this game, as he delivers the finishing blow to net us our penultimate gym badge. While I was busy watching Cleo make pancakes out of birds, Calliope and her Team Chimera goons managed to subjugate Entei, Raikou, and Suicune using a handy MacGuffin that also transformed them into their ancient paradox forms, or as they're known in this game, Lazarus Taxa. With Walking Weight, the seas are now Calliope's domain. With Gouging Fire, the earth is under her control, and with Raging Bolt, the skies above are all hers. Okay, I get the sea and the earth, but does Raging Bolt actually have anything to do with the skies besides making thunderclouds appear? Maybe Calliope just assumed Raging Bolt controlled the upper atmosphere because of its long ass neck. Anyway, to halt Team Chimera's grand scheme of owning a monopoly over every natural resource in the region, we need to enlist the help of the real weather trio, Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza, who I assume are here in Ilios on vacation or something. This will involve tough battles against Team Chimera's most dangerous threats, and life-altering encounters against legendary beasts far beyond our imagination. But I don't want to do that right now. Let's go play some games. Every time you win a round of pinball at the Sophos arcade, you receive 1 point. Each point can be exchanged for a random prize, and that list happens to include wishing stars, so I burned through a few rounds of pinball until I accumulated 5 points. If you want a quick review of all 4 pinball machines in the arcade, Diglett Ball is the easiest to win, Meowth Ball takes too long to complete a round, Gengar Ball is the most fun, and Seal Ball is a godless game designed to wither the human soul. I traded in my 5 points and received a Miracle Seed, a Magnet, my 3rd Eviolite of the run, a Dragon Fang, and the coveted Wishing Star. That plus the star I get for beating the 7th gym allows me to add 2 more pokes to the party. Mitsuru the Girafarig, whom I can immediately evolve into Farigiraf, and Ye Guang the Larvitar, who will serve 0 purpose until the Elite Four. Oh, and here you go, Wishing Well. Here's a Rotisserie Oricorio from my last gym battle. A rotisserie chicken I found lying around somewhere. First up on my world-saving bingo card is Kyogre's Den. On the way there, I battled a dude literally named Barrel, and when I arrived at the den, I confronted what's his name? That guy. The Mamoswine guy. This fight is a double battle, and the next Chimera fights will be 2. The blue Chimera admin kicks things off by Mega Evolving Wardeer into the most passive, ignorable Mega Evolution I've ever faced. Farina does get hit by back-to-back Icicle Crashes though, and loses her turn due to flinching, but a certain someone takes the opportunity to set up a Reflect. That's right, Tomoko's evolved into Reuniclus and will finally be able to prove her worth in these next few double battles. Farina switches out for Cleo, who takes minimal damage from Mamoswine's Icicle Crash just as Tomoko does against Wordeer's ancient power. Moko sets up a reflect too, creating the perfect environment for Cleo to go crazy. She mega evolves and utterly obliterates Mamoswine with a single Iron Head, while Tomoko begins firing off weak Giga Drains against Wordeer. It doesn't do much damage, but it does heal off a good portion of Wordeer's attacks each time. Cleo unfortunately can't one-shot Alolan Persian due to its Fur Coat ability. And I didn't switch out Tomoko because I expected Persian to go for a Fake Out this turn, but instead, it just uses Nasty Plot, letting Wordeer and Tomoko continue their wet noodle fight. Cleo finishes off Persian the following turn while Wordeer slacks off to restore HP. Tomoko clicks her green move and our reflect wears off soon after. Then, Walking Wake enters the battle. Under the torrential downpour, this thing is sure to pack a punch if it can move first. But it doesn't. Instead, it gets flattened by Cleo in a single shot. Wordeer whiffs Icicle Crash while Tomoko puts Reflect back up. Then on the following turn, Cleo one-taps Wall Ray with Gigaton Hammer, while Wordeer pretends it's still relevant to this fight, and Tomoko gets up a new light screen. Moko can finally tag out for Alphonse, while Cleo brings Arctozolt below half with Iron Head and causes it to flinch. Wordeer does something irrelevant. I finally decide to give it the time of day on the next turn, but the deer lives through Cleo's Gigaton Hammer, and Alphonse also fails to kill Arctozolt with Fire Fang because I briefly forgot that it's been raining throughout the entire fight. Wordeer's ancient power also does actual damage for once, reminding me that I can't get too comfortable just yet. A full restore brings Wordeer back to full HP, while Cleo finishes off Arctozolt and Alphonse's Crunch does a pitiful amount of damage. So I pull him off the field for a Mitsuru, while Cleo cuts Wordeer down to 25% HP. Wordeer goes for yet another ancient power and finally gets an Omni boost, but it's far too late, as Cleo and Mitsuru just wall up onto the deer until it goes down, securing us victory over that one blue guy. The bigger blue guy, Kyogre, was so impressed by my showing that it challenged me to a fight, even undergoing primal reversion, but Farina little brother did without issue. One Hoenn legend befriended, 2 to go. Shoutouts to Piraeus, by the way, for continuing to ferry us across Ilios even though there's cataclysmic thunderstorms happening. I find the other redder Chimera admin in a cave near Sophos City, and they're busy threatening Groudon with Lava Plume. You know, ground fire type primal Groudon, famously afraid of fire attacks. The very wise and intelligent Chimera admin leads off with Arcanine and Cyclizar, the latter of which puts on his Koraidon cosplay and asks that we take it very seriously. Farina just shrugs off Arcanine's flamethrower as she makes it rain, and Tomoko ignores everyone else as she gets up a reflect. Cyclizar goes for a second shift gear, but its greed will end up being its downfall. Arcanine uses Crunch on Farina for some reason, even though Tomoko was right there, letting our dynamic duo collect a KO apiece. Shoutouts to Megla Cyclizar for becoming dragon fighting type, turning Tomoko's Psychic into a guaranteed one-hit KO. Next on the chopping block are Ceruledge and Hakamo-o, the former of which uses Swords Dance while the latter gives an aggressive hug to Tomoko. Farina again scores a KO with Triple Dive, and Tomoko also scores one with Psychic. All that's left is Berserker and Gouging Fire, whose Burning Bulwark blocks Farina's Triple Dive and burns her as a result. Berserker fakes out Tomoko too, making this a net negative turn for us. I swap out Farina for Alphonse and his sweet Intimidate, while the increased priority of Vacuum Wave lets Tomoko move first and chunk Berserker's HP. Gouging Fire uses Dragon Claw on Alphonse for a little return, and Berserker's Night Slash does even less to Moko moments later. Thank you, Reflect. Too bad you just ended. Alphonse sets himself on fire and blows up Berserker, while Gouging Fire lands an admirable hit that triggers Tomoko's held Citrus. She gets up one more Reflect, then checks out for Dante the Dodrio, another wielder of the mighty ability known as Intimidate. Alphonse's Thunder Fang does less damage than I'd like, and Gouging Fire does more than I'd like, even after 2 Intimidates. But Alphonse can just snack on his Citrus Berry and join forces with Dante to burn through the admin's remaining potions and eventually topple Gouging Fire for the W. Like Kyogre before it, Groudon also rewards our display of strength by challenging us in its primal form. And again, Farina smacks the legendary Silly. Before I go save Rayquaza, I take a short detour to pick up the Fly HM and nab a Light Clay off a wild Baltoy to further lengthen the duration of Tomoko's Reflects and Light Screens. During this expedition, I also encountered the funniest visual glitch so far. Wow, the world really is ending! I'm here at Rayquaza's vacation home, aka the Tower of Dioxipus. The village at the base of the tower is home to a wild applin, which I can farm for leftovers to give to my party. Don't do this, by the way, it takes an inordinate amount of time. I'm glad to see that Rayquaza's Elogian Airbnb has much better flooring than his place back in Hoenn. Unfortunately, Ray traded upkeep at this place for living space. Atop the tower is Calliope, who's busy stomping her feet because Rayquaza keeps going "nuh-uh" and wagging its finger at her, and the only way she'll have a chance to win Ray over is by beating me. Yeah, she's not doing that. Calliope leads off with Hydrapple and Tinkaton while I match her with Alphonse and Linkshot in her major battle debut. Tinkaton Mega Evolves, but Alphonse gets off a helping hand before getting faked out, allowing Linkshot to fire off a powered up Sludge Bomb that crits Mega Tinkaton, melting it in one hit. Linkshot's ability Corrosion turns poison from ineffective to super effective against steel types, and Mega Tink's additional fairy typing is why Sludge Bomb ended up being this potent. Hydrapple meanwhile launches a strong Fickle Beam that brings Linkshot below half and procs her held Citrus Berry. Alphonse lends a hand again, allowing Linkshot to one-shot Tyrantrum with Dragon Pulse, but Linkshot's quite frail, so Hydrapple's second Fickle Beam directed at her takes her into the red. Thus I have to pull her out for a Yohane, who gets smacked by Dracozolt's Breaking Swipe while Alphonse blocks it with Protect. Fickle Beam also brings Yohane down to half, but the combination of her held leftovers and poison healing restores a good portion of her HP, even more so when Yohane clicks Protect the following turn, completely nullifying a second Breaking Swipe / Fickle Beam barrage as Alphonse trades places with Tomoko. Since I know these two goofballs are just gonna keep spamming the same dragon moves, Yohane can U-turn out for a Cleo, who waves aside the attacks while Tomoko gets up a light screen and heals a bit of her HP with her held leftovers. Alright Calliope, let me show you what a Mega Tinkaton can really do. Mega Cleo one-shots Dracozolt with Spirit Break, while Hydrapple unleashes Burning Jealousy for weak damage to Tomoko and a crit against Cleo. Damn, that's it? In comes Calliope's Ace Raging Bolt, and so does Gilgamesh on the following turn. Cleo narrowly misses the Raging Bolt one-shot as Big Neck goes for Calm Mind, and Hydrapple clicks Burning Jealousy again for even less returns. With +1 special attack, Raging Bolt unleashes a high-priority Thunderclap that does squat to Cleo as she finishes off the Electric Giraffe. Gilgamesh KOs Hydrapple with a 4x effective Ice Fang, leaving just Sneasler. But I'm past the point of caring about this Hisuian nuisance. Cleo, pancake that motherfucker. After getting utterly embarrassed in front of her Oshi, Calliope and her admins retreat to their hideout while Rayquaza expresses gratitude by jumping me. For some reason, it doesn't Mega Evolve in this fight, allowing Gilgamesh to ensure that Hoenn's Weather Trio is safe and sound from Team Chimera, and so begins the pursuit to Team Chimera's hideout. First up is Corn Crossing, I hope she makes it quick. Then there's Port Pello, the pinkest town in Ilios, which includes another easy Rania fight. She promises to round up as many gym leaders as she can to help us apprehend Team Chimera, but I trudge on ahead, through a thicket of trees filled with tough trainers before eventually arriving at the place formerly known as Arios Town. It has since become Team Chimera's hideout, and this place is just sad. All the buildings that are destroyed are abandoned, Nurse Joy is imprisoned and forced to do her job without any machines, and since nobody on Team Chimera knows how to properly maintain the town's river, there's puddles and flood barriers and makeshift log bridges everywhere. Wasn't the whole point of Team Chimera to make boatloads of money? Yet they don't even have the funds to renovate the dilapidated gym that serves as their headquarters. It really paints a clear picture of a group of delinquents way in over their heads. Before I can confront Calliope, I have to take down her two admins one more time, this time in single battles. I'll spare you the play-by-play here. Gilgamesh swept through most of the blue admin's team before letting Cleo hit Mamoswine with the... and the red admin got a front row seat to the Dante experience. Dante the Dodrio single-handedly swept through Renaya's team back at Port Pello and has enjoyed a steady diet of enemy trainers on the way to Arios. He may be frail, but he's fast, packs sword stance, and makes for an excellent sweeper that will aid us well in the remainder of this run. Or Lycanroc could survive Dante's hit with Sturdy, then crit back with Rock Tomb to kill off our late game ace. Dante could have survived a regular hit, but alas, it wasn't meant to be. Rest in peace, Dante. Man, imagine dying twice across multiple attempts of a single challenge. That's gotta sting. We fortunately have little issue mopping up the rest of the second admin's team, and after exchanging the course of Dante for a horsier ground type, it's time to confront Calliope for the final time. The walls have closed in for her and Team Chimera, and in her moment of vulnerability, she reveals the true motives for forming this organization, raising her town, and doing all these crimes. She was bored. Calliope, you are such a shallow person. Calliope's last stand begins with Cleo smacking Hydrapple silly with Spirit Break, though she fails to KO. Hydrapple's Burning Jealousy is negligible, however, and after spending 2 turns rendering Calliope's healing attempts null, Cleo can finally collect that KO. The stage is thus set for a glorious Mega Tink versus Mega Tink showdown. The mirror match begins with our foe using Fake Out, but the tides quickly shift in Cleo's favor because she has Bulldoze, allowing her to claim superiority over her brethren in just 2 short turns. From there, Cleo can go hog wild, one-tapping Dracozolt with Spirit Break, critting Savali with a Giga Hammer, and caving in Grimmsnarl with Iron Head. Cleo narrowly misses the final KO on Calliope's raging neck, but she survives Discharge and lets Farina tag in on an ineffective Thunderclap before ending Team Chimera once and for all. With Calliope utterly defeated, the three beasts revert back to their original forms and dip, but not before Raikou snatches a badge out of Calliope's pocket and deposits it at her feet. Unfortunately, Calliope and her admins manage to escape by digging out of the gym, mere moments before Rania and her conclave of gym leaders could step in. Still, all the remaining Team Chimera grunts have been arrested, and the organization has essentially been disbanded, which begs the question of what Calliope is gonna do now that she's a wanted criminal. Knowing her compulsive greed, she'll probably trade crypto or something. Yo, wishing well? There wasn't anything of worth I could bring back from Ilios town. All I could muster were these tires they used as flood barriers. So, what do you got for my final encounter? Yeah, that's a fair exchange. See you after the league. Instead of a traditional cavernous victory road, the path to Ilios' Pokemon League consists of a winding path through nature and a strait filled with tough trainers, some of which even have mega evolutions of their own. Pangoro's sprite in this game looks like it's taken the world's biggest dump, while Mega Pangoro looks blissfully satisfied after dropping that titanic turd. Rania is also back for one last battle, and she even mega evolves her Ace Victory Bell. Actually, she mega evolved this thing in the previous two fights as well, but I skipped over it because every fight against Rania was uneventful in the grand scheme of things. Shame too, because her design and battle theme are excellent, and she's in the small pantheon of Pokemon rivals, official or unofficial, who lose to you right before the Pokemon League and still decide to take on the Elite Four anyway. That's someone with conviction. Unlike the impression I get from Ilios' Pokemon League, which has music far too peaceful for a supposed final gauntlet. Due to mysterious circumstances, the Ilios League disbanded prior to the start of my journey, and was only recently reformed by the same four gym leaders who joined Rania to raid Team Chimera's hideout with us. So let's see which of our Pokemon will have the honor of giving this new Elite Four crop their inaugural whooping. Feels like an eternity since Gilgamesh the Arctozolt was dropping triple doubles on the heads of first stage Pokemon. Since then, it's been smooth sailing for our fossil friend. Its strong jaw boosted attacks still hit as hard as ever, and it's been pumped up with enough speed EVs that it'll hopefully get off a lot of powered up beak bolts. Cleo the Tinkaton already had a strong case for MVP of this run prior to receiving her Mega Stone, as she was a pivotal defensive piece in our earliest gym battles. But since receiving her Tinkatite, all Cleo's done is... As if her Reign of Terra wasn't already dominant enough, she also gets access to Swords Dance via Move Tutor. In other words, get ready to see and hear a lot more. Yohane the Gliscor has Poison Heal and a defensive profile to stand up to almost anyone. The only downsides are her 4x weakness to ice and the fact that I have to go out of my way to poison Yohane before every major battle, which, when I put it that way, kind of makes it sound like I'm taking her to get illegal injections. In Fire Emblem Heroes, Alphonse's abilities are, well, you can see them on screen now. In Pokemon Lazarus, Alphonse the Arcanine's ability is one sentence long, but it's arguably just as, if not more valuable as a whole. Since every fight in the league will be single battles, I can fully spec Alphonse's moveset into attacking moves, leaving the utility to just his Intimidate ability and allowing him to... Oh my god, is that screenshot still scrolling? Farina the Quagsire has done a lot. I do not want to elaborate. The script is already way too long and you already remember how good she is. And for the final member of the roster, I'm gonna circle back on someone I've been saving for this moment. Yaishin Guang can evolve into Pupitar and then Tyranitar, providing us with power, bulk, and Sandstream, wrapped up neatly with an assault vest I procured from the arcade. And that's a squad of 6 who will be taking on the Elite Four. These 6 former well-dwellers are ready for anything the league has to throw at them, which it turns out is not much. The peaceful music really was a premonition of what was to come, because the Elite Four in Pokemon Lazarus is astonishingly easy. Like with earlier battles, each Elite Four member specializes in 1 to 3 types, but includes specific checks and counters against things that would otherwise sweep their team. For example, the former first gym leader turned first Elite Four member, Polymnia, includes a Crustle on her team to dissuade any ice types from sweeping her grass dominant squad. But we have so many options at our disposal now that we can counter the enemy trainer's counters. Like I just let Gilgamesh one-shot her lead Jumpluff and Alphonse throttle her Abomasnow and Dolomites before Cleo Mega Evolved to wrap up the rest of the fight. Against the second Elite Four member, Terpsichore, it's another 3-mon job as Yaishin Guang set the stage, Yohane did a little air show, and Cleo closed out another quick and easy fight. It's even easier against the third Elite Four member, Euterpe, as Gilgamesh can mob up 2/3 of her team before Cleo once again sweeps a alongside the remaining mess. And the final Elite Four member Radine does give us a brief scare by nearly taking Ye Xinguang's life, but that's only after Ye already KO'd 2 pokes and she ended up surviving anyway, allowing the rest of our roster to mop up the rest of the Elite Four. Compared to the earlier fights in this game, the Elite Four battles felt way more rudimentary, like there was an attempt at preparing for certain checks the player might have, but not enough to actually matter, and not to the same degree as earlier in the game. Combined with the lack of a unique battle theme for the Elite Four, and the Elite Four consisting solely of gym leaders we've already faced before, I get the impression that the Pokemon League was a bit rushed, which is a shame. But hey, there's still the champion, who's been a total mystery up until this point. Will the champ be someone familiar we've fought before, like Rania, or maybe someone we met before but didn't know was a powerful trainer all along, such as Professor Elia or Piraeus? How about neither option? The champion of the Ilios region is this random dude on the motorcycle named Ilios. He allegedly beat the brakes off the old Elite Four so badly that they disbanded, and he didn't give a toss about the Team Chimera incident, only returning to Ilios to reclaim his title once he heard the league reformed. Sorry man, you came back at a bad time. Let me show you why. Yohane begins the final battle by immediately burrowing underground, dodging Cerulege's attack before popping out and narrowly missing out on the kill. Bitterblade does take half her health, but the attack's healing puts Cerulege out of potion range, allowing Yohane to dig once more and finish off Cerulege for good, by which time the residual healing of leftovers and poison heal has already put Yohane back at full HP. Yohane protects while Obstagoon obstructs, wasting both of their turns before Yohane U-turns out in embarrassment. The big goon lands a shockingly strong double edge that nearly halves Cleo's health despite her resisting the attack, but it's no matter. I make Cleo Mega Evolve, then click Swords Dance anticipating another obstruct, but Obstagoon instead goes for a weak Night Slash. As you'd probably expect, Swords Dance plus huge power is a lethal combination that'll serve as Cleo's ticket to victory. She annihilates Obstagoon with Spirit Break, splits Scrafty in half with the same move, flattens Alolan Muck with Gigaton Hammer, and shrugs off Spiritomb's Sucker Punch before adding it to the kill tally as well. That just leaves the champion Cyclizar, who Mega Evolves into Mini Koraidon, but that's like a duck sticking a leek in its mouth and hopping onto a dinner plate, and Cleo's all too eager to feast. With one final decisive, Cleo takes out Cyclizar and earns us the right to be inducted as the new champion of Ilios. We've officially beaten Pokemon Lazarus using only Pokemon obtained from the Wishing Well. And speaking of the well, hey, so about that proposal I made earlier to sell some of this stuff, you agree? Awesome! I think we could really make this into a business. We could buy up lots of stock and sell it not just to individual customers, but businesses too. Our selection would be huge. Food, TVs, tires, rotisserie chickens, all that crude oil could even be refined into gas. We'd have so much stuff for sale that people wouldn't even mind leaving the main town to visit you this far out. Yeah, this is gonna be great. Me and you, Wishing Well, here's to the start of our brand new business empire. And I got just the name for it.